Right in the Picture, MIDI Controllers by Anthony Bro and Sam Rothkin.
Before the use of MIDI, musicians would find many of these same sounds included with MIDI in the mellotron. Developed in 1963 in Birmingham, England, the mellotron is a musical instrument that uses tape loops to produce the sounds of different instruments. One of the mellotron's most notable appearances is in the song Strawberry Fields Forever by the Beatles.
This here, I think most of you can probably see it. This is a mellotron, 60s instrument that was a forerunner of the synthesizer. And the idea was that it's tape loops. It's like a tape cassette. You play one of the keys, and it will play string sounds or a trumpet or flutes. But since I've had it at my studio, I've been trying to work out, what they originally made them for. And I think it might have been to sell them to places like cabarets, so as you wouldn't have to pay a band. You just sort of get a mellotron in and get someone to work it and it'd be fine. You get music on the cheap. And you'll see what I mean when I play. These are all presets from the 60s. And this is the kind of thing they thought people wanted to do with a mellotron. And I can't blame them. Well, baby, won't you come with me? Now, baby, honey, can't you see? I love you, baby, with all my might. Come on, baby, out tonight. I love you, baby, dear. And though you may think it's a little queer, I wanna take you down with me tonight to Abbey Road. It's Abbey Road. Come on to Abbey Road. Yeah, to Abbey Road. Yeah, come on down with me tonight, baby. I love it, I love it. Mellotron, what were they thinking? Fabulous. Well, I love it. We found other uses for it, as have many musicians since, and probably the most famous use we as the Beatles put it to was on the front of one of our records, which went like this. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Okay.
MIDI is an acronym for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. A MIDI controller allows music producers to initiate sounds from an electronic instrumental catalog to an external source. They allow you to control your music via the language of MIDI. They come in all forms, from MIDI keyboards to MIDI drum pads. MIDI information is to computers what sheet music is to humans. In other words, it is a series of instructions that has the capability of producing a piece of music into a digital audio workstation, DAW. MIDI was created in 1983 by Dave Smith. Dave Smith was the inventor of the MIDI and the Prophet 5 synth, and was also known as the pioneer of the synthesizer. Due to these discoveries, he helped revolutionize pop music in the 1980s, which was heavily shaped around synthesizers.
Born on April 2, 1950 in San Francisco, David Joseph Smith was the founder and engineer of the synthesizer company Sequential. More than this, he created the first polyphonic synthesizer. With fully programmable memory, the Prophet 5 had a major impact on the music industry. Dave led the development of MIDI as well, and in 2005 he was inducted into the Mix Foundation Technology Hall of Fame for the MIDI specification.
To connect a hardware synth to a computer, plug a jack cable into the synth's line-out, plug the other end into an audio interface, connect it to the computer via USB, or plug a MIDI cable into the synth's MIDI out, and the other end into the MIDI in on a computer's MIDI interface. Audio. Your synth sends the sound it produces over a cable to your computer. The sound gets converted to an equivalent electrical signal, which can be recorded or processed by software. MIDI. Your synth sends digital instructions to your computer to play notes at particular times for any duration. These instructions can then be used to play software instruments in your computer. They can also be captured, recorded, and played back on a software on a hardware instruments.
MIDI devices allow you to play live instruments using keys or pads, or even adjust their parameters. In this video, let's take a look at how you can connect your MIDI devices to live. Most MIDI devices that connect to the computer for you to input notes or for parameter control are usually class compliant. This means that they do not require drivers to be used once they're connected to your computer and Live 10 has been launched. However, if your MIDI controller does require drivers to be used with the computer, make sure you download the latest version and install this first before connecting it to your computer and using Live. Connect your MIDI device using the cables supplied. If your MIDI device also requires a power supply, make sure this is connected too before starting. Launch Live 10 and go to Live's Preferences. I'll use the keyboard shortcut, Command, Live will automatically recognize your MIDI device. To confirm this, your device will turn up in the MIDI port section and be activated. If you've connected a MIDI device and it has not been recognized by Live, simply go to the MIDI port section, select your MIDI device, and activate Track and Remote. In this case, I've activated the MIDI input of my audio interface. Test your setup by sending MIDI data to Live from your control surface. In the control bar, the MIDI indicators will flash whenever Live recognizes incoming MIDI messages. Some MIDI devices allow for instant mapping. What this means is that they are templates pre-made for Live that allow you to use your MIDI device in several different scenarios without having to change the configuration of your controller. If this is the case, Live will also automatically recognize this and your device will turn up in the Control Surfaces section. If your MIDI device has a control surface template but has not been recognized, you can simply use the chooser by selecting the control surface as well as the input and the output of that device. Up to 6 supported control surfaces can be used simultaneously in Live. The MIDI port section allows you for more detailed configuration of the MIDI inputs and outputs if it's necessary for you to do so. Takeover mode allows you to decide how Live will behave when you use your MIDI device to change parameters in Live.
MIDI utilities are assorted MIDI software for manipulating and handling MIDI files. This may include general management software, event editors, and players specifically designed for playing MIDI. MIDI controllers, converters, patch editors, and sequencers are found in their respective categories. These utilities are accessible with a digital audio workstation, or DAW. Examples include Ableton Live, Adobe Audition, Audacity, Cubase, FL Studio, GarageBand, Logic Pro, and Pro Tools.
A good example of MIDI files in day-to-day life is the invention of the karaoke file type. Created in 1998, karaoke files allowed the creation of sing-along arrangement for use in bars. A karaoke file is a standard MIDI file with lyrics as meta information and typically has the extension CAR. A karaoke machine is typically able to play back MIDI tracks and project lyrics.
Open Sound Control, or OSC, was invented in 1997 at UC Berkeley's Center for New Media and Technology. It is a protocol that controls and networks sound modules and multimedia devices. In a simpler form, one piece of software can control another on the same computer. OSC is like a much larger form of MIDI. MIDI is constrained by its 8-bit format, limits range of values and types of messages that can be sent, whereas OSC's message structure supports more detailed messages that can be sent.
The Makers movement is the result of overlap between digital audio, music technologies, and open source electronics. It is an open source community in which people use products such as the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is an inexpensive general-purpose computer that can run multiple programs to create new products and collaborate with each other. Raspberry Pi is a plug-in program used to teach programming skills, build hardware projects, do home automation, and even use them in industrial applications.
Audio arts relies on inter-device communication. Today, every acoustic instrument has an electrified version which can be modified to the user's satisfaction. Almost every pop song today includes some kind of use of MIDI. The invention of the multi-instrument digital interface gave infinite opportunity to musicians and unlocked a whole new world of sound. In many ways, MIDI helps to propel music as a whole and influenced the path of modern music.